So this one's kind of funny, right? But because he used a randomized controlled design, we can draw a valid conclusion from this study, at least regarding rubber animals of the sort that he used, right? And in the conditions in which he was testing it. The conclusion is that turtles do not get hit more often than any other animal. He followed several sound principles in conducting his test, right? He did multiple trials, he counted hundreds of cars, he used equipment, he used equally matched rubber animals, although maybe, the turtle's a little bit higher, might have been easier to see. There's some limitations to this study, but it gets the point across that he even, tried to use a placebo, like putting a leaf on the side of a road. So, in a sense, it's a good example of how you might start to approach to explain a phenomenon or a question and test a question like, do drivers swerve to hit snakes more often or turtles more often? The last thing we need to discuss is what constitutes a reliable source, a conclusion that you can trust and where to find them. So when researchers conduct research to test the validity of hypotheses, the next step is to publish that research so that others can see what they did. And so in science, when a scientific experiment is carried out and results are gathered and all of this, you can write this up and you submit it to a journal. And in the journal, the editor or associate editor will grab that and take that article and then send it out for peer review. So other experts in the field critically analyze what was done, how it was carried out, what the methods were, everything. Then they send their responses back to the editor. The editor compiles those and then informs the author what the decisions were. Usually it's either a accept with major revisions, accept with minor revisions, reject but encourage to resubmit. Those are some of the main options that happen when you submit a journal. Sometimes you can just get flat out rejected as well. I've never really heard of an article being accepted with no changes though. And those types of articles become what we call primary sources. A good example of this might be an article from the magazine, the science magazine Science, right, or Nature. Secondary sources can also be reliable, but these are one step removed from a primary source of interpreting and analyzing data, because the authors of a secondary source did not conduct the experiment themselves, but they discuss and usually cite the original research. So an example might be something like a biology textbook, right, or a review article in a journal. So keep in mind that secondary sources are also peer-reviewed, which sets them apart from other things like just popular sources, and so they're important as well, and they can also be viewed as being reliable.